He told me that if I went on that trip, it was over between us. So naturally, I went anyway and even posted a bikini pic with Austin. What else was I supposed to do? Let him dictate my friendships and my plans? I'm Paisley, 29, and honestly, I'm still reeling from how spectacularly my life crumbled because of one weekend at the beach. Zachary and I had been married for 4 years. For the most part, life was fine. We had a small house we were slowly renovating, steady jobs, the usual routine. He's in project management, which sometimes means travel for him, and I work in an office. Nothing glamorous, but it pays the bills. We weren't rolling in money, but we were comfortable. I thought we were on solid ground until Austin somehow became this huge issue that came out of nowhere. Austin and I have been close since sophomore year of college. We actually dated very briefly before Zachary came into the picture, but it was nothing serious, just a few weeks of casual dates that just fizzled out. I never really saw the point in bringing it up to Zachary. It wasn't relevant, and I knew it would just stir up unnecessary drama. Austin's always been the person I turn to when I need to vent or just hang out and not have to think too hard. Our friend group has this long-standing tradition of going to Myrtle Beach every summer. It started back in college, and we've somehow managed to keep it going even as everyone's gotten older, married, and even started families. It's honestly the one thing I look forward to all year. 3 days of zero responsibilities, just pure relaxation and fun with the people who've known me forever. This year, Zachary suddenly had a major problem with it. For months, he'd been making these little digs about how close Austin and I were. Like if Austin texted me late at night, Zachary would let out this really dramatic sigh and ask, "What does Austin want now?" Or he'd make snide remarks about how happy I seemed when Austin called. I usually just rolled my eyes and ignored it because it felt so childish, but it kept escalating. Then, 2 weeks before the trip, we were eating dinner when Zachary just casually dropped, "I don't think you should go to Myrtle Beach this year." I actually laughed, thinking he was joking. When I realized he was dead serious, I was completely stunned. He said he didn't like the energy between Austin and me, whatever that's supposed to mean. He actually said it was inappropriate. I've never cheated on Zachary, not even once in 4 years. The accusation made my blood run cold. The argument turned ugly fast. I reminded him that these were my oldest friends, people I've known longer than I've known him. He retaliated by pulling up my text messages with Austin. He'd gone through my phone while I was in the shower. There was nothing scandalous in there, just inside jokes and the usual trip logistics. But Zachary latched onto this one message where Austin said he was looking forward to seeing me in my new swimsuit. It was a completely innocent comment about a swimsuit I'd shown everyone in our group chat, but Zachary acted like it was some secret coded message. Then he dropped the bomb, the ultimatum. "If you go on this trip with him, it's a deal breaker for me." Those were his exact words, a deal breaker. 4 years of marriage, and he was ready to throw it all away because I wanted a few days at the beach with friends I've known for years. I'd be lying if I said I didn't consider staying home for a hot minute, but the more I thought about it, the angrier I got. Who was he to put me through this test, to try to force me to choose? I've always been independent. It's actually one of the things he used to say he loved about me when we first met. Now all of a sudden, it's a problem? So I made my decision. I refused to let him control me. I packed my bags, told him I was going, and that we could discuss his trust issues when I got back. He barely even acknowledged me when I left, just sat there on the couch staring at his phone, acting like I wasn't even in the room. It stung, I won't lie, but I was too stubborn to let him see it. I'd convinced myself he'd simmer down while I was gone, see how absurd he was acting. Naively, I didn't foresee this weekend getaway becoming the catalyst that would obliterate my life. And the most unnerving part? A tiny nagging voice within me whispered that maybe, just maybe, I knew exactly what I was doing when I hit post on that photo, but I stubbornly refused to acknowledge it. The drive to Myrtle Beach should have been a relaxing escape, but I was glued to my phone the entire time. Still, nothing from Zachary. No text, no call, absolute silence. I tried to tell myself I was relieved, no drama to contend with, but truthfully, it stung. 4 years together and not even a simple drive safe. Whatever. I blasted my playlist and forced him out of my thoughts. I arrived at the beach house to find Austin already there on the porch, a beer in hand. He greeted me with a warm hug and whispered, "I'm proud of you for coming." The way he said it sent a strange flutter through my stomach. As he helped me carry my bags inside, he filled me in on who had already arrived and the weekend's plans. The house was exactly as I remembered it, a little worn around the edges, but perfect in its own way. 6 bedrooms, an oceanfront view, and that amazing deck. Tiffany, our friend, gave me a knowing look as I walked in. "So, Zachary's okay with you being here?" she asked, a hint of disbelief in her voice. I rolled my eyes and said he'd get over it. She didn't seem convinced. That first night, we continued our tradition of having a bonfire on the beach. Someone inevitably brought up Zachary's absence, and I immediately felt defensive. "He doesn't control me," I blurted out, maybe a little too loudly. "We're not attached at the hip." Austin nodded in agreement, adding, "Paisley's always been independent. It's one of the things that makes her Paisley." I felt understood in a way that Zachary hadn't made me feel in months. The drinks were flowing, and with each one, I found myself gravitating closer to Austin. Nothing overtly inappropriate, just laughing at his jokes, letting my hand linger on his arm when he said something funny. It felt like slipping back into old habits. Around midnight, he suggested a quick swim. The others had already gone back to the house, but the water looked so inviting with the moonlight shimmering on its surface, so we went in, still in our clothes from dinner. The water was freezing but invigorating. We splashed around like carefree kids, and for those few minutes, I completely forgot about the mess I had left back home. Back at the house, I obsessively checked my phone again. Still nothing from Zachary. So, I impulsively opened Facebook and posted a quote. "Sometimes the people who claim to love you the most are the ones who try to clip your wings." I added a photo of the sunset on the beach and watched as the likes started pouring in. The next day was when everything really spiraled out of control. We spent the morning lounging on the beach, and I made a point of wearing my new bikini, the one Austin had complimented. It was more revealing than I usually felt comfortable with, but I was feeling daring. Everyone was taking photos, and Austin suggested we take one of just the two of us. He put his arm around my waist, pulling me close, maybe a little too close. His hand rested a little lower than it should have. The camera clicked, and I felt something subtly shift between us. Later, after too many margaritas at the beachside bar, Austin and I found ourselves alone on the deck. He mentioned that he'd always wondered what might have happened if we'd given our relationship a real chance back in college. I should have changed the subject right then and there. Instead, I confessed that I'd wondered too. One thing led to another, and we ended up back in his room. We didn't have sex. I'd drawn a firm line in my mind, but what we did do was definitely crossing boundaries. I tried to justify it to myself. It wasn't really cheating if we didn't go all the way, a stupid, convenient loophole I fabricated on the spot. That night, feeling reckless and maybe even wanting to hurt Zachary the way he'd hurt me with his ultimatum, I posted the bikini photo of Austin and me. I captioned it, "Making memories with the people who truly matter. Beach vibes, best friends." I turned off my phone immediately after, not wanting to witness Zachary's reaction. A part of me understood I'd crossed a line, yet a stronger feeling of justification washed over me. He'd tried to dictate my actions. Well, this was my answer. The drive back home felt endless. On Sunday morning, I switched my phone back on to a tidal wave of notifications. Comments on the photo, messages from mutual acquaintances, but nothing from Zachary. His silence resonated more profoundly than any anger could have. Before I left, Tiffany had quietly asked me, "Was that post really worth it?" Her question echoed in my mind throughout the entire drive. When I turned into our driveway, a sense of unease settled over me. Zachary's car was there, but the house felt different, somehow hollow. I walked inside, calling out his name, but received no response. Then I noticed it. His closet was half empty. Dresser drawers were pulled open, with only my belongings remaining. My heart began to race as I frantically searched each room. I found his note in the kitchen. "Staying at Jake's. We need to talk, but not tonight." I immediately called him, only to be directed to voicemail. I texted, "Are you seriously moving out over a photo?" I sank down onto the kitchen floor and cried until I was gasping for air. He finally came over the following day. I had barely slept, replaying every possible argument in my head. But the man who walked through the door wasn't the Zachary I knew. He was calm, detached. He sat down at our kitchen table as if he were a stranger. "So, you're back," he said, his voice devoid of emotion. "How was your trip with Austin?" "Don't," I snapped. "Don't act like I committed some unforgivable crime. You're the one who issued an ultimatum." He took out his phone and showed me the picture. "This isn't just some innocent beach photo, Paisley. This is you intentionally trying to hurt me, to embarrass me." He scrolled through the comments, friends asking where he was, Austin responding with a winking emoji, opinions from people I barely knew. "You broadcast our marital problems to the world," he said. "You wanted everyone to see you defying me." "You went through my phone," I retorted. "You tried to control who I could see and where I could go." "I asked you to reconsider a trip with a man who has romantic intentions, especially after finding messages that made me uncomfortable. That's all it was." He rubbed his eyes as if exhausted. "This isn't just about Austin." "Then what is it about?" I demanded. "It's about respect, Paisley. It's about your constant need to test my limits, the flirting with other men when we're out, the way you exclude me from your friends, how you always paint yourself as the victim when we argue." He looked at me with such profound disappointment. "I saw the beach photo and I know what happened with Austin." My blood turned to ice. "Nothing happened," I blurted out automatically. "Don't," he said, raising his hand. "Katie saw you leaving his room at 2 a.m. She texted me because she was concerned." I felt cornered. "We didn't have sex," I insisted. "That's not cheating." Zachary just stared at me, his expression one of disbelief. "Do you really believe that anything short of intercourse is acceptable with another man? It's not like I planned it," I said defensively, "and maybe if you hadn't been so controlling, I wouldn't have." "Stop," he said, his voice quiet but firm. "No more blaming this on me. I'm staying at Jake's for now. I need space to think." "You're overreacting," I said, panic rising in my voice. "This wasn't how this was supposed to play out. I came back, didn't I? I'm physically here." "Maybe," he said, standing up to leave, "but you haven't been fully present in this marriage for a while, Paisley, and neither have I." "That's on both of us," he said, and walked out. A chill settled deep inside me the moment he was gone. It wasn't just disappointment. It was a sickening lurch of realization. I had played this wrong. What I'd thought was a power play, a test of wills, was apparently the end of my marriage, and I wasn't prepared for that at all. The aftermath of Zachary's departure was brutal. I foolishly checked Facebook, and the seemingly harmless bikini picture had exploded. Casual, supportive comments for Zachary from mutual friends were everywhere. Even my cousin Amber, usually so supportive, wrote, "Sending you strength Z," as if I was the villain in this story. The betrayal stung. I called my mom, desperate. I gave her my side, Zachary's controlling behavior, the unfair ultimatum, my need for a weekend with friends. Initially, she was sympathetic, even promising to talk to him. "He's always been so reasonable," she'd said. "I'm sure this is just a misunderstanding." But 3 days later, after her conversation with Zachary, her tone had shifted dramatically. "You did what with Austin?" she demanded. "Paisley Leanne, I raised you better than that." She launched into a lecture about marriage vows and respect. When I tried to explain that technically nothing physical had happened, she all but hung up on me. Even my own mother was judging me. Then came the excruciating encounter with Austin's girlfriend, Megan. I hadn't seen her since the trip. She'd been unable to join us because of work. I ran into her at the grocery store, and her eyes were like chips of ice. "Hey, Paisley," she said, forcing a smile that didn't reach her eyes. "How was the beach? Austin told me you all had quite the weekend." My stomach plummeted. "It was fun," I managed, my voice trembling slightly. "Same as always." She said, studying me intensely. "You know, Austin told me everything about your little after-hours activities." She leaned in, her voice low and sharp. "Just so you know, he laughed about it later. Said, she seemed to think it meant something. It was just Paisley being Paisley." The words hit me like a physical blow. "He's my friend," I whispered, my voice weak. "No, honey, he's my boyfriend, who you've been inappropriate with, and you're a married woman who should know better. Or I guess, were a married woman. I hear Zachary's filing papers." "Filing papers?" My heart pounded in my chest. She had to be lying, just trying to hurt me. But when I got home, a knot of dread in my stomach, I checked Zachary's browser history on our shared laptop. And there it was, a consultation with a divorce attorney scheduled for the next day. But the worst was yet to come. Tiffany, my closest friend, finally spelled out what everyone was saying behind my back. We met for coffee, and she was visibly uncomfortable. "Just spit it out," I said, already bracing myself. She sighed. "Look, what you did on that trip. It wasn't cool, Paisley, and not just the Austin thing. That photo was deliberately hurtful." "Zachary was trying to control me," I protested, my voice rising defensively. "Was he, though?" She raised her eyebrows, unconvinced. "Because from where everyone else stands, he set a boundary in your marriage that you bulldozed over, and then you humiliated him publicly." "It was just a beach photo," I insisted, my cheeks flushed with heat. "With a guy you used to date. Which, by the way, I can't believe you never told Zachary about. With his hand on your ass and a caption about people who truly matter. Right after your husband asked you not to go? It looked calculated." I sat there, stunned into silence. "And then there's the Austin thing," she continued, pressing the knife in deeper. "Katie told everyone what she saw, and now Austin's telling guys at the bar it wasn't even the first time." "He's lying," I said, a cold dread washing over me. "That never happened before." Tiffany just gave me a look. "Maybe, but here's the thing, Paisley. People believe him because of how you've acted. All the flirty comments, the inside jokes, the way you prioritize him." "He's my best friend," I said, my voice barely a whisper. "No, I'm your best friend," she countered, her voice soft but firm. "And as your best friend, I need to tell you, you messed up big time and I don't know if you can fix it." As I drove home, the truth finally sunk in. People weren't just siding with Zachary because they liked him more. They were taking his side because, in this situation, I was actually the one who was wrong. It was a bitter pill to swallow, acknowledging my part in the unraveling of my own marriage. After a week of agonizing silence, I knew I couldn't ignore this any longer. I wasn't ready to admit I was completely wrong. The ultimatum still felt controlling. But I could no longer deny that I'd crossed a line, that I'd taken things too far. So I texted Zachary, asking to meet for dinner, a small step towards something, anything, to salvage the wreckage I'd created. He agreed to meet, and a wave of nervous energy flooded me. I spent what felt like an eternity preparing, agonizing over every detail. Finally, I settled on the dress I knew he always loved, the one I wore on our first anniversary, a silent plea to remember the good times. I even managed to snag a reservation at that little Italian place, the one where we had our rehearsal dinner. Tonight, I thought, I'd remind him of what we built, the foundation we shared. I practiced my apology in the mirror countless times, trying to strike the right balance. I didn't want to appear weak, but I needed him to know I was truly sorry. When he finally walked through the restaurant doors, my heart leaped. He looked handsome, as always, but I also noticed a weariness in his eyes that made my stomach clench. He sat down without so much as a hello kiss, and I knew then that this was going to be an uphill battle. "I'm glad we're talking," I began, my voice a little shaky. "I've really missed you." He simply nodded, offering no words in return. Gathering my courage, I continued, "I want to apologize." I reached for his hand, and he allowed me to take it, but his fingers remained still and unresponsive in mine. "Things got out of hand on that beach trip. The photo was a terrible mistake." "And what about Austin?" he asked, his voice direct and unwavering. My carefully constructed facade faltered. That was a mistake, too. I'd had too much to drink, and I was feeling hurt and angry after our fight. It really didn't mean anything. "So you admit something happened?" I could hear the controlled pain in his voice. "Yes, but it wasn't. We didn't actually," I stammered, searching for the right words, the ones that would minimize the damage. "It wasn't, full-blown cheating." He pulled his hand away, a gesture that stung more than I anticipated. "Paisley, if I did exactly what you did with a female friend, would you honestly consider that cheating?" His question caught me completely off guard. A part of me wanted to say no, to maintain some semblance of consistency, but we both knew that if the roles were reversed, I'd be consumed by rage. I tried to deflect instead. "This isn't about hypothetical situations. This is about us, about our marriage." "The marriage you were willing to jeopardize over a weekend trip?" he countered. "Or the one you were willing to humiliate me by publicly flaunting with another man?" "You're the one who issued an ultimatum," I snapped back, watching my carefully laid plans for a calm reconciliation crumble before my eyes. "You cornered me. I simply asked you not to go on one trip because I was uncomfortable with your friendship with Austin. Just one trip," he sighed, rubbing his forehead with his hand. "And instead of even trying to understand why I might feel that way, you turned it into some sort of power struggle. Because you were trying to control me." "Was I?" A look of genuine confusion washed over his face. "Or was I just asking for a little respect, for my feelings to matter as much as Austin's seemingly always have?" His words struck a nerve, because deep down I knew there was some truth to them. I had, for a long time, prioritized Austin's feelings, his needs, his place in my life, maybe even above my husband's. "I just want us to move forward," I said, softening my tone, hoping to reignite some spark of connection. I reached under the table and placed my hand on his thigh, slowly moving it upwards in a suggestive way. "I miss you. I miss us." He firmly removed my hand, his expression unyielding. "Sex isn't going to fix this, Paisley. It never has, even though you've tried to use it like that before." I felt exposed, as though he could see straight through my carefully constructed manipulations. "Then what do you want from me?" I asked, my voice laced with a hint of desperation. "Accountability," he said simply. "A real understanding of why what you did was so hurtful, not just about the trip or the photo, but about a pattern of disrespect that I've felt from you." I fought back the tears that threatened to spill over. "I said I was sorry," I said, my voice barely above a whisper. "You said you were sorry for getting caught," he replied, his voice unwavering, "not for the actions themselves." The dinner spiraled downhill from there. I alternated between defensive arguments and tearful pleas, my emotions swinging wildly between anger and despair. At one point, driven by sheer desperation, I blurted out, "If you leave me over this, I don't know what I'll do to myself." It was a tactic I had resorted to in the past, a veiled threat of self-harm designed to make him back down. But this time, he didn't take the bait. "Don't do that, Paisley," he said firmly. "That's emotional manipulation, and we both know it." He placed money on the table to cover the bill. "I've been seeing a therapist. She's helping me see patterns. I've been enabling your behavior, and I can't do that anymore." "So some complete stranger is telling you to divorce me?" I asked bitterly, my voice dripping with sarcasm. "No," he said, standing up and gathering his things. "She's helping me realize that I deserve a relationship that's based on mutual respect." He paused, his eyes meeting mine with a finality that sent a chill down my spine. "Paisley, the separation papers are filed. Yesterday, I officially started the process. My lawyer will be reaching out to you soon. After you left that restaurant, I stayed there for what felt like an eternity. I was lost in thought, trying to pinpoint the exact moment everything fractured. How did we get here? How could a single weekend, a single photograph, a single lapse in judgment bring 4 years crashing down? But the truth, the one I'd been avoiding for so long, is that it wasn't just one weekend, was it? It was a slow unraveling, a gradual erosion of the foundation we'd built. It was 100 little compromises I failed to make, 100 selfish desires I prioritized over our shared life. I kept replaying it all in my mind. There were so many moments where I prioritized Austin's companionship over Zachary's need for reassurance. I suppose I reveled in Austin's attention and the freedom he represented. It was a reckless game, pushing the limits, testing the waters, seeing how far I could go without consequence. Each time I justified it in some way, told myself it was harmless. But looking back, I know now that each seemingly insignificant choice chipped away at our bond, weakening it until it finally gave way.